Welcome in to the Morning Glory Show. I'm your host, as always, Jake Robertson at Glory Day Sports on all socials. I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Jonathan Miller at eSports Valen. How you doing today, Jonathan?
Good, man. A little under the weather, so I apologize for that. Might come through on the mic a little bit, but the show must go on. Week 1 is here. Football is officially started. The regular season is here. So excited. Football today, football tomorrow, football on Saturday for college football on Sunday. It's football season, man.
And we got on Monday. We've got 5 days straight of football.
That's true. Yeah, and
we are back.
Yeah.
We are back,
man.
boys.
Feels so
good. If you guys are joining us for the first time, do us a favor. Go over to YouTube, type in Glory Day Sports in that search bar, select that, hop in the chat, drop those score predictions down below, and then hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it. We're heading towards our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Last time I checked, we were at 110, so we were getting dang close. And then once we hit that 1,000 mark, we'll be giving away that signed Tajay Spears jersey giveaway. And by looking at these metrics, about 94% of you guys aren't subscribed, but you're checking out the videos. We got 18,000 views this last month, but only 5% of you guys are subscribed. So hit that, and we will be there overnight. So help us out with that. And then also, we got merch. The cups are in. The shirts are on the way. But you can check that out down below. Get your Morning Glory Show t-shirt. Get that amazing logo with the GOAT himself, Steve McNair. But we got previews today. The Titans heading to Chi-Town, facing off against the Chicago Bears. And they've been in my mentions all week already. So it's getting hopping in. So addition to all of that, I pulled over 140 of you guys in the chat over there on Twitter. And you guys kind of put out these predictions for us. And if you were on the show last week, you know, me and B-Will changed up our predictions slowly. Jonathan did not. He stuck with his 10-7 prediction. And out of 140 people, ranging from 0-17 to 7-7-3 to 17-0 and everything in between, Titans Twitter fan prediction is 10-7, agreeing with the man himself, Jonathan Miller. How do you feel about that?
Just sounds like a bunch of people who know ball to me. Honestly, I feel like 10-7, like 10-win seasons for a lot of people seem to be the consensus of like predicting. Like if you're optimistic about your team, 10 wins seems to be like where most people land. It's like it's a little bit better than 500, so it makes sense. For this team, I think me and many fans fall on optimism. And we'll see what that looks like. I think there's a bigger challenge for this team in that this team is probably going to get off to a little bit of a slow start in terms of just kind of getting the continuity of this new team all together. This defense is new with a brand new play caller. This offense is new with a brand new play callers and new signal caller and new everything. So, the Titans have a really tough schedule in the first leg of their schedule. And I hate to say it, but we could start 0-4 in these first 4 weeks. It's possible. I don't think it'll happen though. I think there's a lot more things that are pointing up in terms of, why optimism is favored in this regard. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people just kind of falling into that optimism bucket because of all of, because we saw a team that, last year was not very good. There was a lot of holes and a much worse offensive line, a much worse, little to no passing game, right? Like there's so many things about last year's team that was not good, yet they were still a 6-win ball club. And, you know, a team that was like respected when you went into the week to play against them. So now you basically make improvements at almost every position group, it feels like. And so it's hard to be like, yeah, we're not at least a 10-win team. So who knows? But we'll see right away. This first quarter of the schedule is going to be the tell all, because if they can somehow find a way to come out of the first 4 weeks 500, let's say 2-2, I think that bodes very well for a team that should have a slow start, not only because they're brand new, but also because the schedule's so tough.
Definitely. And I think at Titans fans, you guys got to be smashing the overs over there on DraftKings or wherever you're placing your bets, because we're at 6.5 wins right now. And out of the 140 of you guys pulled, 39 of those agreed with the 10-7 on the dot, and then 31 of those were 9-8, and then 24 at 11-6. That's like what 90 out of the 140 are within those three scores. So, I mean, got to be smashing that button. And I think we can get that up to 8 before week 1. So, getting into it, we got our first official injury report of the season. And we got Jamal Adams, who did not practice. And we did get his injury officially, which was the hip. We've just heard soreness ever since he kind of stepped back. DeAndre Hopkins was out there looking good by all accounts. Otis Reese still dealing with the concussion. Not a make or break by any means for us if he can't participate this week, and I would almost lean towards holding him out. Don't want to mess with the head injuries. Keenan Allen's been dealing with this heel for a couple of weeks now. By all accounts, it sounds like he's going to play. Really, after that, there's nothing that really stands out. Montez Sweat, I believe, will play. Zach Pickens sounds like he's trending towards it. Rashawn Johnson, their third running back behind DeAndre Swift and Khalil Herbert, should play, but if not, it's fine. We'll get that little Tavondre Sweat, Rashawn Johnson reunion potentially. Ryan Bates, that is the one that kind of stands out to me. And listening to their fans over there, it sounds like he might not play. But even if he doesn't, they brought him in to start to be their center. And it sounds like he's lost that job, and they have him listed as the backup left guard for them now behind Tevin Jenkins. So with Jamal Adams, I think that's the biggest one that stands out to Titans fans. It's unfortunate, but I don't anticipate seeing him out there on Sunday, which might leave these safeties a little bit pressed with Diggs and Hooker, and getting rid of Molden. It's those two deep with Mike Brown at this point in time. That's the one thing that might be keeping me up at night at this point in time. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not, to be honest, the whole Jamal Adams thing, I think it was pretty obvious that there was a good chance that he was going to be very limited in camp, very limited in his comeback, essentially, because a lot of people forget, like, he's coming off of some very serious injuries. And so it's not entirely surprising. It seems like the injury is not the same injury he had that he rehabbed and got better from.
It
Seems
not.
like
It was good.
something that he kind of like maybe tweaked it early in camp or something. But yeah, at this point, when it comes to the veteran guys, it's all workload management, right? Because, there's not a whole lot that Jamal Adams is going to gain from getting out there, aside from getting some reps next to his teammates, right? And he's had team reps, like he's been out there. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he somehow found a way to play in this game, and that they're just kind of keeping him on the report and kind of giving him as much time as possible, and then let him get out there, probably in limited action. But if he doesn't, I'm not overly concerned. Quandre is going to be playing out there. Amani Hooker's out there. Does it make me a little more sad to have Elijah Molden not here anymore? A little bit, yeah. Like I was kind of excited to have him in the rotation because he was a good player. But yeah, overall, and then they got rid of Matthew Jackson, which I was a little bummed about because I thought he was the better safety. But I think they'll be okay. Two safety sets is probably going to be there. McCreary has been known to do well playing the nickel, so who knows? Like maybe they slide McCreary into that that nickel set and then bring in, Brownlee to cover a third receiver if they're in those wider receiver sets. So I think they'll be okay, even without Jamal. And then the other two guys, Otis Reese, definitely probably going to be inactive. I would imagine they elevate Luke Gifford if he's healthy enough. They'll probably elevate somebody like that into the 53 for game day, and then Hop is back, bro. Did anybody actually question if he was going to play? We all knew it. So yeah, we'll see Hop. He'll be ready for week 1.
No, super excited to have Hopped out there. And this secondary, I think outside of the injury risk, the top end is going to be there. They're matching up against some guys out there and some of the better weapons that they'll face this season with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, who they recently acquired via trade, Roma Dunze, who they drafted with that 9th pick after grabbing Caleb with that 1st, and then DeAndre Swift, Cole Kmet. They've got some weapons out there.
Dogs.
And they got some dogs, and they also brought in Gerald Everett as well as that 2nd tight end. So these are some guys that under Shane Waldron could compete. And Shane, he came in over there from Seattle after being their coordinator for the last 2 to 3 years. And, I mean, you look at these guys, I mean, you've got Metcalf and DJ Moore. You've got Lockett and I would say Odunze over Allen. Maybe Allen is more of that JSN role for you. So I think these are some guys that the Titans are going to have to account for. And I think L'Jarius Sneed is going to be shadowing DJ Moore for the most part. So can Owuzie and McCreary and these safeties account for these other guys? I think it's the biggest questions for Titans fans throughout this offseason. But when we look at Shane Waldron and what he's done over there at Seattle, you think they're just going to come out in 11 and gun every play. And that's not what they do. That's not what he did. And historically, I mean, this is a guy that ran 12 personnel, 9th most last season, and even 13 personnel, he was 2nd in back-to-back seasons. That's 3 tight ends and a running back out there. So, I mean, they lined up and gunned 26th the most. They called the 25th amount of screenplays. So this is a offense, and it really begs the question: are they going to be putting that square peg in the round hole with Caleb Williams? Because that is not what he does well. So how do you see this defense stacking up against these weapons?
Well, this matchup is actually fascinating, just in terms of, like, when you look at this matchup on paper, it's really interesting because you can almost go 1-for-1 defense to offense. By the way, not just on the Titans side of like matching defense to the Chicago offense, but on the other side, on the flip side, the Titans offense to the Bears defense. This Bears defense is really good. Their secondary is really good, and they have a pretty good front as well. So when you look at every position group, it's really fascinating. That's the first thing I did, was looked at every position group and went, okay, like, where is the advantage for either side? And so on this one, I would argue that Shane Waldron has better weapons on this Chicago team than he had in Seattle. I think the Seattle offense was, kind of run to establish and then make big plays in the passing game when it mattered. And that worked, and that still works. That's still a good formula for Seattle. But for Chicago, it's a little different, right? Like, when you have a guy like Keenan Allen, like, he is a far more capable slot or F receiver. He's an X, really, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
So, like, the things you can do to deploy Keenan Allen alongside guys like Roma Dunze. And here's the thing: when I look at their skill position guys, when I look at their 3 receivers, you can deploy all 3 of those guys at X. You can deploy all 3 of those guys in very many ways at the F. Like, these guys are interchangeable in every way. And so to me, it makes it really challenging for a defense to prepare for this offense because they are so interchangeable. So the looks that the Titans are going to get early in the game is going to be challenging to adapt to. So what it's going to come down to is, how does this Denard Wilson defense react? Can you get Caleb Williams off of his platform and get him into a position where he's uncomfortable? And that's the thing. That's the other challenge. Caleb Williams is fantastic off platform. He is really good off script. As a matter of fact, that might be his biggest strength outside of his arm. Is he can get outside of the pocket and make stuff happen. So even if you do a good job rushing the passer, you still have the challenge of covering these guys downfield, which, by the way, the biggest mismatch of this entire like the Chicago offense versus the Tennessee defense, the biggest mismatch here might be Cole Kmet against some linebackers who aren't exactly great in coverage. Jack Gibbons is going to get the start. So if I'm Shane Waldron, I'm like, we're attacking 50 right off the bat with 85, and Cole Kmet is going to feast on Jack Gibbons. And then you have, Kenneth Murray, who's not exactly great in coverage either. Like I think he's probably better than what he was in previous years. It looks like he took a big leap this offseason, much improved, at least passing the eye test. But again, not great in pass coverage. So that's my concern. I think Cole Kmet is actually, getting these one-on-ones against these backers. There's a really good chance that opens up the middle of the field, and then that can create opportunity for the rest of the guys. So the Titans defense, I don't think this needs to go understated, has an immense challenge, a bigger challenge than the Titans offense has against the Chicago defense, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I think with Caleb Williams, I think you hit the nail on the head with off-platform. Caleb Williams is, I don't like the word generational, but I believe he is probably as close to that I've seen covering the quarterback position this last 3 to 4 years since I've covered
exceptional
the
is a good word.
Yeah,
he's fantastic.
He's very good. Where Caleb Williams does get knocked is performing in a system. And that even goes with Lincoln Riley, that has a very QB-friendly system. They run a lot of mesh post. I mean, they run a lot of good stuff that Caleb Williams did very well. He won a Heisman with him, for God's sakes. But when you forced him to stay within the pocket, be able to read the defenses and move through progressions, that's where he kind of did fall off a little bit. And what we saw was if you could pressure him up the middle, he struggled. And if you hit him early, that's when the game started to get away from him. Like Utah did a great job against him doing that. And once they got in his ear, which I think Jeffrey Simmons will do very well, I think that's where it can kind of cut. This game can really be won for this Titans defense. And just looking at the Bears offensive line, which they have retooled it, Titans fans will recognize one of these names in Nate Davis, who had a good rookie campaign for the Titans. His sophomore year, he really stepped up. But after that, that's when those injuries started to play out a little bit. And that's ultimately why I think they didn't re-sign him. And that's when he moved over to Chicago. And just listening to the beat reporters over there, it's been pretty much the same. He's dealt with injuries for multiple seasons now, can't stay on the field. They are still starting him. Tevin Jenkins, he has played well under his rookie contract, and I think he is in a contract year with them. He played very well last season. Health has been another concern for him. I think when we look at these tackles in Braxton Jones and Vols fans with Darnell Wright, rookie right tackle for him last year, Darnell Wright, great run blocker. I think what we saw him kind of flip the script last year was he improved down the stretch as a pass pro. I think that's probably where, I don't know if he'll ever be elite there, but I think that's where the Titans can take advantage, is over on Darnell Wright and Nate Davis sides. And then Coleman Shelton, their center that ended up winning the job, came over from the Rams. That's where I'm super excited, because Jeffrey Simmons and T'Vondre Sweat are going to bully this man. Coleman Shelton, he led the NFL in pressures, tied with Aaron Brewer last year. Not great in pass pro. He's bigger than Aaron Brewer, so he doesn't have an excuse for that. So that's where I think this pass rush can really, really take advantage of it all. And then we'll see. I think we'll see some EJ out there. I don't think he will get the start.
Yeah.
I think we'll get that
Callahan confirmed he's going to play. He's going to play.
Gibbs going to get that veteran nod as the starter because he's been there longer. And I think he's earned it. But we will see a lot of Ernest Jones out there. Harold Landry against Braxton Jones, I think that's a good matchup to keep an eye on for sure. And I think this, even on the opposite side, it's very similar. They're starting guys like Demarcus Walker is their other edge out there, opposite of Montez Sweat. So those matchups against NPF and him, those should be fun. Or it's really just trying to keep Montez Sweat away from Will Levis. How do you see this pass rush playing off for both sides? Because these are two offensive lines that ranked 30, 31st, 32nd last season. How much of an improvement do we see going into this season in week one?
Yeah, well, I think it's far and away easy to say that the Titans' offensive line has improved maybe the most dramatically over any offensive line this offseason, not just adding good players like Lloyd Cushenberry, J.C. Latham, who's proving to do really well, finding a spot with Dylan Radins, sliding him in at right guard, which we think is a better position for him, and then having NPF, which, by the way, prior to his suspension and injury, I thought NPF was a pretty good player for a little bit there. But yeah, so to me, this is the biggest gap. Like, this is the difference maker for the entire team. So when you look at skill position and defensive secondaries and, you know, it's kind of the back half or the front half of this of both sides of the ball, they match up really well. So it's hard to see, you know, which specific player is going to maybe overwhelm their position or their opposition. But when you go into the trenches, that's the most interesting part. So I think the true difference maker, the decider here in this game is going to be the Tennessee defensive interior and the push that Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons are going to get on those three guys. Those three interior offensive linemen are going to have trouble blocking these two players. And it's something we said early on, right when we saw Tavondre in training camp, where he was absolutely mauling guys, and we're like, okay, these guys are going to be tough to defend. But what I think is going to happen is that consistently the Bears should be okay to send those three guys to block these two players. Now, there's going to be times where they get through. They're going to do well. But I think what's going to happen is that the interior pressure, in theory, should create opportunities for the guys on the edge. And that's my concern with Tennessee. It's not the push that's going to happen from Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre. I think they're going to get through sometimes, but they're going to get tripled, those two guys, which means that the edge guys almost all game long will have one-on-one opportunities. Now, like you said, Shane Waldron not shy to run 12 personnel. So seeing Gerald Everett and Cole Kmet out there on a regular basis, not super surprising, right? And it might not be a bad idea to have some guys to chip on the edge. Maybe you chip Harold Landry, you send a little bit of extra help there. But regardless, I would say 85% of the game, our edge defenders, our pass rushers are going to have one-on-one opportunities. They have to win those one-on-ones to create the pressure that's going to be needed to happen on Caleb Williams. That's how it's going to be. So to me, the defensive line has to win in a unique way against this Bears offensive line, which is okay at best, in my opinion, right? So they should have the opportunities that create. The secondary is going to give them time to get home, but they're not going to be able to. That if they can't get home, this is going to be a long game for the Titans defense. So to me, that's the biggest differentiator. On the other side of the ball, Montez Sweat is the one guy that sticks out. That is, that should give you some fits. But whenever there's not a ton of talent on the defensive line and you're worried about multiple areas, I think one thing that's going to bode well is this new zone scheme running game that the Titans are going to be deploying. We saw a little bit of it early in the Saints game when the ones were going, where, I mean, it was beauty. It was orchestrated beautifully, like where they were pulling guards and tackles and they were moving the offensive line around really well. I think if you have a good zone scheme, then you're going to keep players like Montez Sweat on an island a little bit and not give him a ton of opportunity to disrupt the game. So I suspect that the Titans will have some of that going on in the run game to, one, stall things out a little bit, kill the hype in the stadium since it's an away game, and then open up the pass game from there. Get Will Levis moving around, just basically running opposite of Montez Sweat.
Yep.
And not giving him as many opportunities to disrupt the game. If the offense can do that effectively and the defense can get home on the defensive line from time to time and just keep that disruption good there, because who knows? I mean, we saw Jeffrey Simmons literally walk all pro tackles, just literally walk them backwards into their quarterback and toss them. Like, it can't be understated how good this interior defensive line is. And it also should be reiterated how poor the interior of the offensive line the Chicago Bears have. Like, it's a good offensive line, but they're playing against all pro talent on the defensive side. So that would be that's my primary key to victory for this game.
No, I it's funny. One of the Bears fans, they were in my mentions yesterday, and we talked about how both these lines are very piss poor last season. PFS has the Bears moving from 31st, 30th, all the way up to 10th. 10th this season. That was posted earlier this month.
How do they figure? That doesn't
No
even,
idea.
That doesn't even statistically, that doesn't even make sense.
Well, they didn't even have the correct player mentioned. They were talking about who was on their injury report. Ryan Bates they brought in to be their center, not even the starter for him. Was all they really put in the article. So I was leaving that as, and we're still at 30th. So we'll see how that all plays out. I think Big Coach will get us there for sure. But when I look at this team, yeah, I think you put it really well. I'm moving this offense down the field opposite of Montez Sweat. If he's lining up on the left, we're running to the right. If he's lining up on the right, we're moving it to the left. In those passing situations, I'm probably putting Josh Wiley over there or using one of these great backs to chip on, get him in pass pro. That was one of my keys to victory is getting these running backs involved very early, though. Getting these new gap-based schemes, running this counter, this pin and pull, these buck sweep variations, and getting these guys into space. I think it's going to be very crucial in this game. And yeah, we're doing it away from Montez, in my opinion. So I think that's something. And when we do it away from Montez, we're doing it towards DeMarcus Walker. So I think that just helps us out. And then when we look at this passing game, I think you have to get Calvin Ridley on the move early and often. We know that Jalen Johnson does not shadow. He's going to line up in his spot, and that is what it is. I do not want Calvin Ridley getting pressed at the line of scrimmage one time in this game because that's where he struggles. I want to get him on the move. I want to get him into the slot. I want to see him out there against their other corner and Tyreek Stevenson, who was a rookie last season out of Miami. Great size, great athletic traits, does struggle a little bit with that short area quickness. And I think this is a guy that you can take advantage of. He allowed 9 touchdowns last season. That is more than I believe the entire Tennessee Titans starting secondary last year.
Yep.
We know L'Jarius Sneed, Roger McCreary didn't allow a single one. I know, I believe Chidobe Awuzie allowed 3. I think Quandre Diggs allowed 1. And I think Amani Hooker allowed 3. So do the math. I think this is a guy that you're really targeted very early. And I think all of these guys can take advantage of it. I'm fine just putting DeAndre on an island out there against Jalen Johnson. He'll win some, he'll lose some. But getting these targets early and often to Calvin, allowing these backs to run and operate in the screen game, getting Will Levis off platform and on the move, I think these are some things that we just have to do. And I think Callahan has it prepared in this scheme to knock this out of the park in his first game. And I think we continue that trajectory that we saw through the preseason.
Yeah, there's a lot to dissect on the offensive side that's really interesting. But one that sticks out to me is I think you kind of hit the nail on the head where you get the running backs involved early. These guys are dynamic in the passing game. Both of these players, both Tony Pollard and Tajay. And I think they're both really good pass blockers as well. So I think there's a big advantage to the Titans in that way, that there's a pair of running backs that should be able to be deployed in the passing game, should be able to be, really great sitting back there blocking for Levis. The one thing that I'm excited about is that last year when we saw the potential from Will Levis, it was all under fire. Like literally the most pressured quarterback out of all the starters for the weeks that he was playing, constantly under fire, having to be, throw off platform, and yet he was still making the plays that he was making. So what I'm excited to see is efficiency first, being able to move the ball, go through his progressions, and actually have time to make the right decision and have time to deliver the ball. So, and not only that, there's pass catchers out there that are damn good, that are going to give him the ability to actually catch what he's throwing, which there were many times last year, there were some drops that shouldn't have happened, just straight up. So Yeah, I'm really excited to see this offense. I'm excited to. They have a big challenge week 1, so we'll see. Can they move the ball? What are we looking like points wise in terms of what we think they can do? There's a lot of unanswered questions, and I think depending on how this team plays offensively, I think will kind of carry everything else because I think the defense, maybe at least early on, in theory, should struggle a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see. This is Caleb Williams is going to be under the lights for real this time. This is a real defense, and this is a defense with a ton of playmakers. So he's going to have to play very, very sound football. But we'll see. I'm sure there'll be some breakdowns here and there. I wouldn't be like I saw a lot of people predicting like 13-10 scores and stuff like that. There's no shot. These defenses are probably going to break down early, and there's going to be some quick points. But yeah, I'm super excited to watch it.
I think Caleb will break one this game. We know under Denard we're going to be playing a lot of man coverage, and with that, you got your back to the quarterback. And Caleb is an athlete. There's going to be a play where somebody gets too high in their pass rush, and he's going to sneak under, and he's just going to take off, and he's going to go for 30 yards. But it's limiting that, I think, is the biggest thing. Going back to Will Levis, this is not a over complicated defense under Matt Eberflus. Titans fans should be very familiar with him when he was with the Colts. This is basically, they're almost running a 4-3 more often than not. And they're going to run a lot of cover 2, a lot of cover 2 concepts, a lot of too high shell. So it's not going to be over complicated, and they do not blitz. They never have. Ranked 31st in blitz percentage last season, 25th the year before that. And when he was with the Colts for multiple years, never ranked higher than 23rd, with his last 2 seasons ranking at 29th. They're going to come out in their base, and they're just going to allow you to dink and dunk, and they're going to be efficient with their tackling, I think, is their entire goal. So I think that could definitely play into just having Will Levis get on pace early, allow him to get those easy completions. So I think that's super huge. Two-Tone Blue Studios in the comments. You guys keep up the good work. We appreciate you guys. If you are in the comments, so we got a couple hundred of you guys, make sure you hit that retweet button. If you're on Twitter, if you're on YouTube, drop us a comment down below. Let us know. Who do you think has a better season? Is it Will Levis? Is it Caleb Williams? Let's drop a mayo in the comment for Levis, or some nails down there for Caleb Williams. But we're going to go ahead. We got some picks to go over to end the show today. But before we do that, we had an additional poll earlier this week over on Twitter, and it was, who are your MVP votes for offense, defense, rookie pick of the year, and your underrated Titan?
Your Titans MVPs, to be clear, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
All Titans related. So I don't even remember how many we had, but you also submitted yours, and I'll give my picks as well as we progress through those. And we'll start on that offensive side, which you gave your pick of Will Levis. And out of these, we'll go over who was submitted. We had Levis, Ridley, Boyd, DeAndre Hopkins, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, DMR, and big coach himself, Bill Callahan, which I did enjoy that pick. But coming in first, and I did have a graphic, but I guess I got rid of them. Will Levis swept it by, obviously. I think that's pretty standard. I think that's what we were anticipating, with a 3-way tie for second place. So 38 votes for Will Levis, 5 votes for Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and Tony Pollard.
Pollard.
Yeah, which it does make sense to me. We will be efficient running the football, but how I see MVP as most valuable player. If you are missing that person, how does it affect your football team?
Right.
And Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, very similar. If one goes down, the next one's up. I don't see a big drop off with that at all. And the receiver position, very similar. I think that would hurt you more than a Tony Pollard injury. But Will Levis, if he goes down, Mason Rudolph comes in. I think that's the clear-cut answer. I thought about it, and I picked Will Levis as well. I really thought about J.C. Latham, though. When he went down with those cramps in the preseason practice, I was like, man, if that's something that's bad, and maybe that's my Titans PTSD from the last 3 seasons where we just haven't had a left tackle. But if Latham is out and we ask somebody like Duncan to come in there and start for us, that might hurt us just as much as Will Levis going down. So, and if that happens, Will Levis will be injured very soon, unfortunately.
Yeah, the way I see it is, if Will Levis is the guy who all of us believe that he can and should be, then undoubtedly he's the MVP. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's going to be the reason this team goes. He's going to be the reason this team gets elevated. He's going to be the reason for winning. He's going to be the reason for, picking his teammates up when, like, he's just going to be the guy. And that's what we need desperately. So to me, there was no question it was going to be Levis, as long as you believe that he's the guy.
Yeah. And I think at this point in time, he's given you reason to believe he is. We'll really see it this season. By no accounts of mine saying he's the savior of this franchise, but he very well could be too.
Let's hope so.
Let's fingers crossed, but I do see the realm of possibilities where maybe he's not the guy. Maybe he's Jameis Winston, which has been his comp this offseason throughout national media. Wouldn't surprise me, but I am leaning towards him being the leader of this franchise for the next decade, hopefully. And maybe that's just being optimistic. But that leads us to the defensive side. So this one was much closer. You gave your pick of Jeffrey Simmons, which was the consensus answer. 22 votes for Jeffrey Simmons, 21 votes for who would have been my pick in L'Jarius Sneed. So those are the two, and we've debated on this podcast months ago, once the Sneed trade even happened, where we kind of went back and forth. I think it was me and B-Will leaned on L'Jarius. I think you went to Jeffrey Simmons. I don't think there's an incorrect answer there. I think Jeffrey Simmons has the leadership of this defense. I just think if L'Jarius Sneed goes down and you're relying on a Jarvis or a McCurry or an Awuzie as that next man up, that one scares me a little bit, opposed to having just a position that might not have as much value as the cornerback position does. So those are my thoughts on that. Behind those two, it was a fall. It was 22 and 21 votes there. Next was Harold Landry coming in with 6. And then after that, it was Ernest Jones with 4.
Let's hope it's Harold Landry. Oh my gosh,
man, we got to have a pass rush.
That's probably 14 plus sacks if he's the MVP of our defense. Yeah, I mean, and look, I'll say this about Jeffrey Simmons too. We haven't had a fully healthy Jeffrey Simmons season. No. He's missed some sort of time at basically every year. So think about it. If you get 17 games of healthy Jeffrey Simmons, like, to me, it just feels like this could be the year where he stays healthy. And if he stays healthy, I think we're looking at 10, 12 sacks plus. You know what I'm saying? And if he's in the same realm, if he can give you relatively the same play as a Chris Jones, this defense can go, man. And so to me, I love L'Jarius Sneed, and I really hope that he's the same player that he's been throughout his career. And I think that would be that'd be huge for this team, huge for this defense. But to me, Jeffrey Simmons is the heartbeat of the defense. And if he is, dynamic, as we know he can be when he's healthy, then that's going to make everything else work. That improves your pass rush, which is probably arguably the biggest hole or biggest, I don't want to say hole, but you know what I mean? Like the biggest liability, if you will. And so, yeah, that's why I had to give the nod to Simmons. Now, if Jeff misses some time, like he's been doing, even if it's only like 3 or 4 games or whatever, then I could see like Ernest Jones or L'Jarius being the guy.
No, 100% agree. I think with Jeffrey Simmons, we brought up the double-digit sack prediction. I think he gets there this year. I think under this system, it will aid him more than under Mike Vrabel. We're going to see this Matabuke ascension, I think, for Jeffrey Simmons. Matabuke, I think, had 13 sacks last season. I think if Jeffrey Simmons can get that 10 to 13 range, this defense, top 5 unit in the league, I think. And I think we can get there. MB and chat, what's up, gentlemen? We appreciate you, MB. Definitely appreciate you. One of our first viewers, I feel like, months ago. He's always in the chat. But that brings us to our Rookie of the Year picks, which every single rookie draft pick got a vote here other than Cedric Gray for obvious reasons.
James Williams got a vote? Was
James
that yours?
Williams got a vote. Was not my vote. So somebody is a fan that definitely submitted that vote because they're listening. But yeah, J.C. Latham, Tavondre Sweat, James Williams, Jarvis Brownlee, Jalen Harrell, and Jaquan Jackson. Who was your pick, I believe? No, your pick was Sweat.
Oh, no, I went with Sweat. Yeah, that's right.
You do have a Jackson vote, but Sweat was the pick that you chose, which when I posted it, I was like, okay, I think JC Latham is probably going to sweep this, and then it'll be Sweat, and then it'll just progressively go down from there. I was incorrect. Sweat swept with 31 votes. Tavondre Sweat took it away. JC Latham did come in second with 19 votes. Who was my pick? Just because, we talked about he was almost my offensive MVP potentially. So I went with Latham there. Again, these are two guys that we're hoping are cornerstones for this offense and defense for the next foreseeable future. And pairing Sweat next to Simmons, every single Titans fan is excited to see what that looks like. And if he's got the weight down, he's looking explosive. If he is on the field for the majority of snaps, sky's the limit for this cat. And if I had to pick somebody to win offensive rookie of the year or defensive rookie of the year in totality, we know JC Latham's not winning it. Offensive line's not going to win that award. Tavondre Sweat, though, if he comes in there, has 6 sacks, has some tackles for losses, has some pressures in there. Tavondre Sweat could win defensive rookie of the year, and I think he's top 10 in the rankings as of right now to do it. And I think it's only going up from there. I haven't checked it in probably a couple of weeks. So obviously you went Tavondre Sweat. I went JC Latham. Behind them, it was a tie for third with Jarvis Brownlee and Jalen Harrell with 4 picks each. And then Jaquan Jackson.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it just goes down to when we thought Key was not going to be out there. And we kind of saw what he could be. And then that second preseason game and third preseason game, he put it together. I think there's a lot to like there. And we're going to see that rotation with Key. But behind those 3 primary pass rushers, that's where it gets a little hazy. Is it going to be the Ollie Gay? Is it going to be the Caleb Murphy? Rashad Weaver, gone. We did not talk about it earlier. He is a Texan. So we'll and I know you're a big Rashad Weaver guy and got history there.
I just like the guy. I think
he's an awesome guy.
He's a good dude. He and it makes sense. He basically told me, this is not breaking news or anything. It's not serious or whatever, but he told me personally that it was just important for him to get a fresh start, which is the reason why he didn't come back to the Titans practice squad. And I agree with him. Like sometimes when you're at a place for a certain period of time, even if the regime is new, sometimes the change of scenery, the change of scheme, the change up on the roster, it's just like anything in life. If you're working at a certain job and someone sees you a certain way or whatever, you have like this weird, conceived notion of who you are or whatever, and then you change jobs, and then all of a sudden it's a fresh start. Like nobody has a certain preconceived notion of you or whatever. You can just be completely unencumbered by all the BS. You can just be focused on what's new. So I think it makes sense for him. And it makes sense for the Titans too. Because let's be honest, there needed to be some major shakeup here. So yeah, just happy for him. Hope it goes well. I told him, I was like, good luck, brother. I just hope that you don't do well 2 weeks of the year. So
yeah. Fuck the Texans 2 weeks out of the year, and I'm fine with that. But he can go back up to Nico Autry with his suspension. He's got friends in Aziz over there. It makes sense. And for the Texans, it makes sense for them too to bring him in and just hey, we can look at this playbook. What does Denard Wilson's defense look like? What is Will Levis? How is he progressing? I mean, it makes sense for all parties, I think. So
Sure.
can't hate on it too much. And then, Jaquan Jackson, James Williams, they got some votes there as well. 1 vote each, which leads us to underrated, underappreciated Titan, which this one all over the board. I think there is 22 picks here, and we only start 22 players. This is your Jaquan Jackson pick, and I see the vision. I went with Josh Wiley. I think he is tight end 1 over Chig. He's going to be that Y for us. And I mean, I'm starting him in fantasy this week. I've got him in a couple leagues. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And if he goes out there and puts up a reception for 6 yards, might be a little heartbroken.
Wait. Speaking of fantasy, I think you and I play against each other. And
I believe we do. I have not looked at that. I haven't looked at that league since we drafted, 2 months ago?
Yeah. It's the I called it the Glory Day Sports Bowl. Yeah, we do. We play each other. Let's see. Right now, you are favored by 8 points. You are favored? Hold on,
because I didn't draft the defense, and I threw somebody else in there maybe a week or so ago. But
look at that.
We'll see how that plays out. We'll keep you updated going into next week how that went down.
Sure.
If you guys are in the Glory Day Sports Fantasy Championship, completely different league, several leagues at this point in time. Good luck to everybody unless you're playing me. But if you're interested in joining that next season, make sure you just send me a DM. We'll get you in there. We'll be starting a 4th or 5th league probably. And we'll get you up to the Premier League. Get you up there with the top dogs. But you had Jaquan Jackson, obviously speedster out of Tulane. Got him paired with Tajay Spears with that connection. Best friends. And really showed out in minicamp. Once we put pads on, he slowed down a little bit, but I think we see what he could be for this offense. And we talked about having Will Levis be this dink and dunker potentially this week. But when they take those shots downfield, Jaquan Jackson could be on the field for that because that's what he does very well. They can utilize this guy, and we saw they tried to do it in the preseason. With that reverse to Jaquan. And I think we'll see some of that this season. And maybe Will Levis will throw a block this time. Maybe QB school will be happy. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, this is a gadget receiver that has upside to potentially move into a starting spot, potentially in the slot down the line, maybe replacing a Tyler Boyd. So I definitely see where you're getting with that.
Yeah, I like Jaquan. I think he's probably going to be a better receiver than we think right now. I think he has the potential to really grow into a legitimate role in the offense. So, I see flashes of it. Normally, I'm a pretty good eye for receiver talent. So we'll see. We'll see how that pans out. But yeah, I'm pretty excited for Jaquan. I think I'm definitely higher on him than I was when we drafted him, obviously. But I think at this point, after the Seattle game, after the Seattle practice where he just ripped those two big catches for insane yak. And scores. I mean, that's the type of receiver you need in this offense. It's going to be those small, drag routes and those comebacks and those short daggers and stuff like that. That's what this offense is going to operate under. So if you can catch a 4-yard slant and take it 30 yards, then that's the guy you want in this offense. So, and to me, it seems like he's growing into that. So that's why I'm a little high. To me, he should be a underappreciated or underrated player on this team. And there was a lot of guys that, like you said, that could fit in that spot, if we're being completely honest. Josh Wiley is an interesting one. That would be cool to see him have a big year. But yeah, to me, Jaquan is like there's a glimmer of diamond in there. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a little bit of value I'm seeing from a distance. So excited to see if he can do just that, grow into the offense.
When you look at Will Levis, the last time he had an offensive line, which was his junior year at Kentucky, his most prolific receiver was a very similar receiver in Wan'Dale Robinson. Who he got drafted in the first round to the Giants, and he's dealt with injuries since he's got there. But when he was on the field, he's been decent for him. So this is a type of a receiver that Will Levis likes as well. So I think it could work out very well for Jaquan. And if you get that in the 6th round, hell yeah, brother. But
absolutely.
we didn't even select the correct ones, and I don't even think we were second or third. So Roger McCreary took first with 12 votes. So
Good pick.
he may be underappreciated amongst national media. I would 100% agree with that. But as Titans fans, I think very rarely do you see a Roger McCreary hater, I think.
Don't see very many Roger McCreary jerseys either.
You don't. We need more Roger McCreary jerseys. I don't know if I've ever seen
21 is such a sick number, too. It's like,
I know. Yeah,
such a
and
cool
he's not
jersey.
going away anytime soon. So let's get some McCreary jerseys. I know we're giving the Tajay Spears signed one right now. Maybe our next goal will give away a Roger McCreary one.
Start giving away like underrated jerseys.
Yes.
Players
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's the jerseys I like to purchase. I want the ones that, I mean, my only Oklahoma jersey I have right now is a General Booty jersey, and he doesn't even play for Oklahoma anymore. So, but that leads into second place, which was Tyler Boyd with 9 picks. I think that is a very
good pick.
That would have probably been my second, just because I think Titans fans just see the name Boyd and they think, okay, he's kind of fallen off. But in practice, this dude has been electric, and he's had that mind meld with Will Levis. And I think we look at Calvin Ridley, we look at DeAndre Hopkins, even Traylon Burks to an extent. And those are the big names. Tyler Boyd's a little bit down there, probably close to Jaquan Jackson. So I think Boyd is a very good pick. And then after that, it was Josh Wiley, and then Jalen Harrell came in fourth. And then a multitude of Kenneth Murray, I guess, was the next one. And then basically everybody else is tied with 2 votes or 1 vote. So, yeah. So I think that's pretty exciting for these underappreciated Titans. And unfortunately, with the national media, they'll probably be underappreciated throughout the season, even if we are good. So we'll see how that all plays out.
True.
But
yeah, good picks.
Yeah, I think all good picks across the board. So you offensive MVP and Will Levis, I agreed. Simmons and Snead were our picks for defensive. Sweat and Latham for rookie, and then Jaquan Jackson and Josh Wiley for underappreciated. But let's go ahead. Before we close out the show, we're going to give out some predictions for this game, but as well as the entire AFC South. And we'll continue this throughout the season. We'll keep track. We're going to get with B-Will, get his picks as well. And we'll track this throughout the season, figure out who is the Glory Day Sports or the Morning Glory Show picker of the year. But to start, we've got the Texans at Colts, AFC South divisional matchup. Houston is favored by 3 on the road. They're in Indy. So CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson. Who are you taking in this game?
Man, you know what? A lot of people keep citing last year, week 1 for the Colts. I think it was week 1, right? Didn't these 2 teams play week 1 last year as well, and the Colts won?
They won the first matchup. I don't remember if it was in week 1 or not.
Gotcha. Okay, so it might have been a different week, but either way, the first matchup against each other, it was early in the year, and because AR played, I remember. So the Colts they won that game, but let's remember that early last year, that Texans team didn't really come online until like halfway through the year, towards the back half, right? So to me, the Texans are very good. This is a very, very good football team, and I think there's maybe a chance that the Colts split with them, but I don't think it's in the first game. So I'm actually going to take Houston in this one, and I would actually take the over because I think they're only favored by 3. I'm taking the over. I think they're going to win by more than 3 points.
We are in agreement with this first one, and I really wanted to take the Colts, and I've kind of gone back a little forth and for it. But
it seems like a little bit of a trap game, if we're being honest. Like
it really does.
If there's a game the Colts could steal, it feels like this one. But I just don't. I don't know. I have to see more of Anthony Richardson to believe. I just do. So
that's where I'm at. I have to see it before I believe it. I think it could be for real. But as of right now, I'm just going to wait and see how this matchup plays out. And if we're incorrect, it is what it is. But that leads us into our next matchup being Jacksonville, which is at Miami, which this one is a 3.5-point game, which I guess I could start with this one. This one's pretty simple for me. And this is Miami, and I'm definitely hitting the over. We know with the home field advantage, you Vegas pretty much puts in a 3-point favorite for you. So they're essentially favored by half a point. Is kind of how I view this. And I think the Dolphins could take this and run away with it literally very early. I think we're going to see some Javon A-Chain break a big one. Raheem Mostert, obviously, if you got these receivers, it sounds like Jalen Waddle is officially healthy and will play in this game as well with Tyreek Hill. And then they just keep bringing in more and more speed to this offense. And I think the defense is improved as well. Aaron Brewer, big question mark at the center position, as Titans fans all know. But I think they'll be fine. Tua, I think, will stay upright. And I'm not overly worried about this Jacksonville team. And I've talked about it on the show many times at this point. Is I think they're the bottom of the AFC South. I think this is where the fan bases of the NFL, this is where we start to see who the Jacksonville Jaguars actually are. If they win it, so be it. But I think Miami destroys them in this game. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I'm going with the Dolphins, and I'm also taking the over. These spreads are low, absolutely low. So if anyone has never bet before and you're thinking about sprinkling a little bit of money on DraftKings or something, no free shout outs, then this is a week to do it, because there's a lot of opportunity there to win some money. Because I think the Dolphins, I'm with you on the Jacksonville thing. To me, they didn't necessarily get better. They bring in Brian Thomas Jr. In free agency, you go get Gabe Davis. I'm probably missing maybe one or two other big signings, but nothing that really goes, they are a significantly better football team than what they were last year. Everybody forgets they popped all 4 tires on the interstate, and then just so to have that type of disastrous ending to a season that was so promising at the beginning is a tough one to come back from. And this team is not all that different. So to me, the Dolphins win. I think the Dolphins probably win by 10 points. I'll take the Dolphins in the over.
I would agree with that. And that brings us to the finale. We've been talking about it all show. Titans in Chicago. Chicago is favored by 3.5 points as of this morning. This line has moved from 4.5, I believe, earlier this week. So it means money is funneling in towards the Titans side at this point in time. And this one, we're actually going to give a full score prediction. You want to go ahead and kick us off with this one?
Yes, I will. So for me, I wrote my score prediction down last night, and I thought to myself, I'm going to sleep on it, and then in the morning, I'll look at the score again and say, how do I feel? And the reaction is that I feel the same. So I feel good about this score. So I'm obviously taking the Titans, but I'm not doing it because I'm a fan necessarily. I'm doing it because of the reasons that we gave in the show, essentially. I think there's a good chance that the defensive line gets after it. And I think there's a good chance that the rookie, Caleb Williams, as exciting as he is, we are overhyping the holy mess out of this kid. He hasn't put it together yet in a regular season. Do I think he's going to be good? Yes, I do. I think he's going to be a very good player in this league, but it's always growing pains. In the last 15 quarterbacks that were drafted first overall, all of them have not won their week 1 opener. They're 0-14-1 in the starting as a starting quarterback in the opener for first overall picks. Rookie quarterbacks are even worse in terms of how they fare in week 1. So you pair those statistics together, history says they don't get it together early in week 1. So for me, the stats say it. The breakdown feels that way. I'm going with the Titans, and my score prediction is Titans 24, Chicago 20.
Okay, I like it. So, I think you hit on it. I think the last first overall pick to come out and win from the quarterback position, I think, was Mike Vick, if I remember correctly. So that tells you how far back you have to go to find that.
What was that, like 04 or something like that?
It might be even older. I don't even remember when Vic was drafted, but
right, it was older than that.
I think Will Levis, Brian Callahan, this team can put it together early on the road. 2001. I think 2001. So we were dang close. So near, what is that, 3 decades ago? That tells you how far ago you had to go. Two decades. 2 decades ago. Yeah. And then MB in the chat, what about Mariota versus Tampa? He was a first-round pick. He wasn't the first overall pick.
He was a rookie quarterback. So the last rookie quarterback.
He was the last rookie to win, I believe.
No. The last rookie quarterback to win week 1 was Sam Darnold in 2018.
Okay.
But we're talking about first overall pick rookie quarterbacks.
101.
The last one to win their week 1 was Michael Vick in 2001.
Yep. So I see the Titans winning this game as well on the road, starting off on the right foot, continuing this undefeated Brian Callahan preseason into the regular season. I see it similar to you. I have the Titans scoring 24 points.
Oh.
But I see Chicago only scoring 16. Okay. I think what's going to happen is they will get into the red zone, into these scoring opportunities. And I think that's where Denard Wilson, that's where he keeps it mixed up. And I think that's where they get those stops and force them into field goal situations. I'm sure they'll have one great play. There's going to be a Sports Center highlight from Caleb Williams where he does the behind the back, no look, throw pass to Roma Dunze for 80 yards and a touchdown. Well, that's the only touchdown of the day is how I see it. And that's all you'll see. But the Titans walk away with a win, and they walk in to week 2 against who are we playing week 2? Green Bay, the Jets for the home opener. So I think they get back to Nissan Stadium, and we'll see how that game plays out. But I think that basically wraps it up for today. We're super happy to have you guys. We will be going live after the game that night to recap. Time TBD. But we should have B Will joining us as well. We'll be covering all of that, and then we'll be continuing these predictions shows, this coverage going forward throughout the season. So we're super excited to have our first regular season of the Morning Glory Show. It's going to be fun on a bun. Let's get that subscriber count up to 1,000. Drop those score predictions down in the comment below. Let us know if you have the Titans. Let us know if you have the Bears and what that score looks like and how it plays out. But we appreciate you guys as always. Big hug, tiny kisses. Love you, mean it. Peace.
Wait.
We're back.
Wait. Nobody leave yet. You see that button down there? That little bell? Need you to hit that. Subscribe to the channel. All right? Don't leave yet if you're not subscribed. If you enjoyed the content, we're coming back to you. We have content all season long. And yeah, appreciate you guys. Got to hit it one more time. Got to remind everybody before we leave.
Subscribe. Peace.
Appreciate it.